Not only did I lose 100 pounds, my son lost 80 pounds. John lost 50 pounds. The girls that were young at the time, 15 and 13, they got into great shape. They were more physically active. Their acne went away. Self-confidence changed dramatically. All I knew was to go to the doctor, and my life was just consumed by being sick. My whole life flashed before me, and I thought, I have to do something right now. I was off my blood pressure pills within 12 days. I missed out on the majority of my life just thinking that this was as good as life was going to get.
All right, little interruption before we get into the podcast. Did you know that over 60% of you that listen to this show regularly aren't subscribed to the channel? So if you could do me a favor and click on the subscribe button, because it really helps the channel grow and really helps me get bigger guests on the show and helps me elevate the quality of the show. So again, I run these episodes ad-free for that reason, because I want to give you the best experience possible without any interruption. So this is my little interruption right here. So if you could do me a favor and subscribe, click on the notification bell so you can be notified when the episode goes live. I appreciate it very much. Enjoy the episode. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Vegan Podcast. Today, I have the honor of speaking with someone whose story transcends the typical weight loss tale. Imagine going from barely being able to walk up a single flight of stairs and facing a lifetime of medication and surgery to completely reclaiming your health and then extending that transformation to your entire family. That's exactly what happened to Stefanie, the founder of Plantspiration.org. Stefanie not only lost a tremendous amount of weight, she helped her husband and children collectively shed more than 250 pounds. Along the way, she ditched her permanent handicap sticker, rediscovered the joy of simply moving freely, and found her higher calling, inspiring others to take back their health through plant-based living. So in this conversation, we'll uncover the pivotal moments that flipped the script on her poor health, talk about how she convinced her initially skeptical family to jump on board, and heard the profound ways that her life has been changed. We'll dive into her mission at Plantspiration.org and how she's helping countless others find the same hope and vitality. If you ever feel stuck and overwhelmed by the idea of making big lifestyle changes, Stefanie's journey proves that true transformation is possible and can happen faster than you'd ever imagine. So without further ado, let's give a big welcome to Stefanie from Plantspiration.org. Stefanie, welcome to the podcast.
Very happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, well, I'm excited that we get to record this episode because you mentioned we were going to meet at the event in Washington for Physicians Committee. I forget the abbreviation for the event.
ICNM. Yes, ICNM, International Conference of Nutrition and Medicine.
And then I believe Melissa made an introduction, which her podcast just went live. She's like, you need to interview Stefanie. She has an incredible story. So here we are.
That was so sweet of her. Fabulous interview, by the way, with her. And wow, thank you for that intro. You just reminded me of everything that has happened. It's been so much.
Yeah,
incredible.
So for the people listening, let's paint the before picture for them. What did that look like before you entered this new lifestyle?
I spent my entire life battling weight from as long as I could remember. By the time I was 21 years old, I was diagnosed with high blood pressure, hereditary. And the weight just continued to climb on. The diseases continued to climb on. I think it was at my first meniscus repair. I have had 4 since. They were already starting to see deterioration, problems. And they said, you're going to need a knee replacement by the time you're 40. I thought it was a joke. I just thought, whatever. I got sicker. I got bigger. And getting around in 2013, like you had mentioned, I had a handicap placard. I could barely walk around. I was suffering from diverticulitis, pancreatitis, autoimmune, fibrocystic breast disease, gastrointestinal issues, GERD, severe migraines, chronic pain, arthritis. It's
only a few
what
things.
I know it. What was that?
So only a few things.
Yeah, just a couple things. And I really could just convince myself that this was normal at the time, that being sick was just part of getting older and, getting bigger. my life was really about my sickness. It was about my diseases. It's all I knew to talk about. It's all I knew was to go to the doctor. And my life was just consumed by being sick. Not really much hope, I had no visions at the time other than I guess I'm just going to keep getting sicker and this is life. So it wasn't very optimistic. I liked to drink at the time a lot. That soothed a lot of the problems going on, but nothing after all the diets that I've tried. I mean, and I have been doing diets and dieting since the age of 13. I can remember vividly, you know, starvation diets, restriction diets, all the low carb diets, all the programs that I've been doing my whole life. And, I may have lost a few pounds. They work short term, but I would
Yeah.
always gain the weight back on and it never reversed my diseases. So I had reached 278 pounds and I'm about 5'2.5" on a good day. That's a
Yeah.
lot of weight to lug around. So when I was around 230 pounds, this was like, hey, I'm doing good here. And it was just uncomfortable, painful, depressing, and time consuming. It was hard. It was hard to be sick.
Yeah. It sounds like you, from all the attempts and the trial and error throughout the years, that it was kind of became a little bit embedded into your identity of like,
Yeah,
I guess I'm just this person. I'm going to have to deal with these things forever at that point.
exactly. That's exactly what it felt like. Or when I look back now, I realize, or, things I see today, I realize
Yeah.
we really identify ourselves with our sickness, or our diseases is what I noticed. So I know now that's really how I identified my life, or what I thought my life was about was being sick and talking about being sick. But boy,
Yeah.
did
And we
that
tend to
change.
normalize it as well to not make it feel as bad.
Exactly. You convince yourself. Mannequins were larger, so that must mean that this is okay. Or, the commercials on TV for all the drugs and all the pharmaceuticals. It was like, this is just what was the normal thing to be doing. Everybody around me is talking about being sick. We're all talking about how we could barely get around. And, I'm 40 years old at the time, and I started really realizing I'm trying to shop at these small stores like Walgreens because they were
Mm.
easier to get through to get the things that I needed. I cannot believe how closed, how small my world was compared to how it is today, just because I was so sick.
Yeah. So when you mean you were shopping there because it was easier to shop, what do you mean by that?
Just to walk around, it was so difficult for me to walk around that I found myself, going into like Walgreens to try to find, instead of going into the huge grocery store, I would try to find the littlest store so I wouldn't have to walk around. Basically, I was so miserable.
Okay.
It's just unbelievable the difference today when you remind me of these things. Yeah,
Yeah, it must. Yeah, I imagine that again as your brain kind of normalizes it, you start to. I guess you approach life differently. It's like changing the way that you shop.
yeah,
What what do you feel now looking back? So I definitely want to get to the wake up call and kind of how you transition to plant based. But I love human psychology. I love understanding why people shift and like
yeah.
what was that like that moment that everything compounded and it just clicked. I'm curious looking back, why do you think that those diets didn't work in the past? Why those attempts at fat loss weren't necessarily successful in terms of long term? Because I think most people lose the same 10 to 20 pounds over and over again, basically.
Well, it's not sustainable for one. We're not nourishing. We're not getting the proper nutrients, on these fad diets, these things that don't work. So, I mean, that's what I think kept me sick, just how we learned diet culture, cutting the carbs, cutting the calories. We weren't really taught how to eat nutritiously. We were misled, and we were following, honestly, we were the healthiest people we knew. I know that sounds funny now, but we didn't eat red meat. We very rarely ate out as a family. I cooked dinner every day. We had vegetables. We had meat, of course, but it was turkey or it was chicken, 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 chicken. Um, so I was definitely bent. I was pissed when I thought, what do you mean? I'm eating healthy. I'm doing everything right. And I would leave the doctor's office and it would be lose weight. You need to lose weight. And here I'm literally trying as hard as anybody that I knew. I did. I think all those diets just don't work because they're not sustainable. You're just not nourishing. And I think we need to nourish to flourish.
Yeah. I'm asking questions a bit more personal because I'm curious, and
Oh
also
yeah, anything.
for the purpose of serving the people listening as well that potentially might be where you were
Absolutely.
at the beginning and are now looking to be where you're at now. Do you
Hmm.
feel that it was either like there was a lack of potentially knowledge in terms of how to fuel yourself properly to get the
Yes,
outcome that you want, or do
very
you think
much.
that it was that there was an underlying issue that hadn't been addressed in terms of, like, for example, relationship with food, or was it a combination of both?
I think it's absolutely a combination of both. I mean, the relationship with food was unhealthy, just, because of the way I was raised, or most people are raised, just even the way that we're fed into the schools. And
Mhm.
what was the first question again?
So it's basically trying to see, like, was it just more like a lack of knowledge in terms of not knowing
Yes.
how to eat that led you to be in that place? Or because I feel for most people that struggle with sustainable weight loss, there's an underlying issue of like bad relationship with self or with food. So I'm wondering if there was an element of that played within the also the missing a part of the knowledge.
Absolutely. There is very little knowledge about nutrition and how it works in our body and what we need to function and how we need to survive and thrive. So there was zero knowledge of really how to thrive. Diet is one thing, but thriving is another, and then the other part is just, yeah, I just didn't know, and it wasn't sustainable with what I was doing. But this is a totally different avenue that I've got. As you know, this is completely different. This isn't dieting to me. This is about. I didn't know I had a Ferrari. Okay, I had this beat up, clunker car, and I didn't know I had this really awesome engine in here. It just needed the right fuel. It just needed the right environment to be able to just live my life a completely different way. Sorry, my kitty's
Yeah.
just so
Yeah.
distracted.
That's all right. It's perfect. It's an animal friendly show. Um,
It is. It is.
so so for you in terms of your story, was
Sure.
it you went plant based first and then you brought your family into it, or was it you're like, hey guys, we're all doing this together at the same time? What
Hmm.
was kind of like that wake up call slash transition moment?
This is a great question. So my daughter had actually wanted to go vegan in 2012. And she came home, she was 15 at the time, and she said, I'm going vegan. And my response, I'm embarrassed to admit, was, that's the dumbest thing you could ever do. Where are you going to get your protein? Where are you going to get your calcium? And I
Pretty
mocked it.
standard answer.
It was a standard answer, and I'm very empathetic to it when I hear it every day. And I kind of mocked it, and I hoped that this fad would soon end with her, but it
Hmm.
didn't. It went on for months. Actually, I was so concerned about her health, but maybe in hindsight, I was more wanting to prove that this really wasn't a healthy option. So I just searched, how long could you live without meat? And I was shocked when I came across forks over knives. I was like, what do you mean? Why? I'm sick. I'm at the doctor's office every day. Like, why wouldn't they tell me something this simple? So I thought, what is this propaganda? I watched 2 minutes of it, shut it down. Okay. And I said, well, I'm not giving up my cheese and I'm not giving up my vodka. And fast forward 6 months, John was coming home. We were driving home from what would be our ninth surgery in 11 months. So
Oh
she's
wow.
been vegan for months. I knew she wasn't going to die doing this, but I wasn't about to change anything, up until this point. So when he came out of that surgery, actually, the doctor had said it didn't go as planned. There was more extensive work that needed to be done, which was going to He was going to have a harder time getting back to work. He was self-employed. I couldn't work. I was, working on getting disability at this point in my life. So I remember thinking, we're screwed. He can't work. I can't work. I'm sick. We have no medical insurance. This is just getting worse and worse for us. So on the way home from that surgery, I believe he had, I'll think about what it was. I thought, let's just swing through McDonald's. The treat, Maxim. Like, we didn't eat out like this. This was like after a surgery. I'm just going to grab something like this. Guaranteed it was a Diet Coke and some chicken salad. And we get home and I said to the kids, we're going to watch this movie, Forks Over Knives. So I have to lose some weight. With the bag of McDonald's and everything. All of us, because this was a treat to eat McDonald's at this point. So we sat around, we watched Forks Over Knives, and I was sick to my stomach. I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this to my kids. I can't believe I'm causing this, is what I thought. My son was overweight. My daughter, everybody was following in our footsteps. Like, my whole life flashed before me, and I thought, I have to do something right now. So with that, I just said, we're going to go vegan the next day. I went to the grocery store. I brought home all these things I'd never bought, never seen, sweet potatoes, juicing stuff. I went all in the next day. And I have a picture out there somewhere where I took this last picture, and my head is like swollen so big. And the reason I ended up getting sick the first day, by the way. I ended up throwing up the first day because I didn't know what I was doing. I'm juicing all these beets. I'm doing all this stuff. But in that, I didn't realize what I was doing. And I also, that first day, although I stayed on track with it and we did it, the whole family was willing to do it together. So we said, we're all going to do this together. I was in charge of the grocery shopping, so this made it very simple. The very next day, I already felt better. I already noticed, like, my hands felt a little bit different. So I noticed right away something was happening, and I thought, well, let's just go at this another day. And it was within days. The kids were coming out of their room saying, I lost a couple pounds, and I was already down 5-6 pounds. It was actually coming off so fast. We didn't have vegan junk food back in 2013 either. So it really was just the whole foods. When we said vegan, it was grains, greens, fruits, vegetables, legumes. It was those foods. So we just did it. And I hyped it up and I got excited about it. And I played Forks Over Knives probably on like constant reel. And I was consumed with how fast it was working and how much we weren't talking about it. And I hadn't even gotten to my goal. I just thought I wanted to lose weight. I just wanted to get into my skinny pants, my size 14s. That was all I wanted to do for every diet. But once I got to those, I just kept eating and it just kept coming off because I didn't change my ways. I had also, let me back up. I also stopped drinking that day and I also gave up caffeine that day. So I wasn't feeling pretty good the first day.
For sure. Yeah.
But I did it.
Yeah, that's incredible. What was the conversation like with the family after watching that documentary? Because I know, a lot of people that listen to the show are vegan and they're like, I want my husband or my wife and I want my kids to do this. And I'm trying to get them to watch all the documentaries. So I'm curious how that conversation went. I was like, okay, guys, we've just watched this. Was there any desire from them to move towards eating whole food plant-based? Or was it like, that was a cool documentary. And then you were kind of like, no, guys, we're going to do this.
I was like, we're going to do this. I said, no one's inspired by tiny visions. I said, so we're going to go big and we're going to knock this out and let's see how long we can do this. And as quick as we were seeing results, I was just continually flooring it up. Like, look at this, look at how good we're sleeping. Look at how good this is working for me. Now look at Dad. He was already recovering from a surgery. They released him after like weeks when it was supposed to be month-long recovery. We were really raw in the beginning too. We were very raw, lots of juicing. So things were very rapid. We just went at it and went 100%. And we did get a lot of grief along the way from society, schools, doctors, pediatricians, a school nurse. This is a small community, so people had a lot to say then also watching us do it. And that just further fueled the, I have to understand what's going on here so that I can explain it to people. So when it comes down to the whole family thing, I had to be the inspiration. I had to be the one to say, hey, this, look at what this is doing. And that's what I like to tell people is if you want to get anybody you love to do this well for you first, because that's the greatest gift that you can do is for everybody else is to take care of yourself first. So I took that job seriously of I have to be a role model for the kids and the family.
How did you navigate the community? Because like you mentioned, you live in a tight-knit community, and earlier you were
6,000.
sharing that when you're 6,000. So yeah, it's a pretty like tight community.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that when your daughter came to you, your initial response was, oh, well, this is going to be a phase and I want this to end. And to
Yeah.
a certain extent, I believe it's the same for everyone that's still eating meat now, is they want to prove that they haven't been doing something wrong all of these years and it can't be right, or else I would have learned about it, or else I would have figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
Do
Mm-hmm.
you feel that
Mm-hmm.
that's the same for others in the community when you guys started to kind of eat this way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Cognitive dissonance was deep and I was still trying to understand it. There was a lot of moments where I thought maybe I'm doing something wrong because everybody is giving me such a hard time. But I also had to remember I also was the one that was giving my daughter a hard time. So I started to be a little bit more open minded, do a little bit more research. I was very understanding of people that were questioning things. But the comments from the pediatrician and the school nurse and the people at the bank thought that I had cancer. They thought that I was sick. They were asking my husband, is Stefanie okay? Like, we can't believe how much weight she's lost.
Yeah.
Maxim,
It's
this just further fueled the. I cannot believe people are confused about being what healthy looks like. That they think I'm sick.
yeah. It's like, oh, you're not
So
overweight anymore. Something must be wrong with you.
exactly, yeah, that's exactly what the feedback was for everything. And my
Yeah.
son, not only did I lose 100 pounds, my son lost 80 pounds. John lost 50
Wow.
pounds. And the girls that were young at the time, 15 and 13, but they got into great shape. They were more physically active. Their acne went away. So everybody's whole relationship with food improved greatly.
Yeah.
And their self confidence changed dramatically. I mean, it was powerful. It was powerful. It is
How old was your
powerful.
son when he lost the 80 pounds?
18. So it was a
Oh, it's a
really rough
big
time.
game
Yeah,
changer.
huge. He had a rough time in school, being overweight his whole life. And it's just, I wish I could go back, but we're learning today, to move forward with what we know and to help more people know that we aren't stuck. We aren't stuck. We just don't know how.
Yeah. You know, I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason, and I've had some really hard things happen to me in my life, and I still believe that to be true. If you guys didn't go through that, you wouldn't have had the fire inside of you to help all the people you're helping now. So it's like
Exactly.
the cost was the suffering until you guys figured it out, and then the reward is all the impact you get to have on the back end.
Exactly. I'm familiar with your story. It's incredible and I can relate. It's something just moves you to how can we let more people understand that there's a way to do this. It should be more talked about. So thank you for all that you do. And people just don't have the tools. We're in a society that isn't set up for all this awesomeness. So we have to keep educating them and motivating them and inspiring them that it can be done by regular people, um, just by getting the right foods in. I think is where it really starts, and the right
Yeah.
information.
And I think that, not to go too much on a tangent, but I think with all the information that is online, what limits a lot of people is not I wouldn't necessarily say it's a belief of being in one boat or another, but I think it's the confusion aspect of having all these different points of view out there. And so that's why, like, just I've seen the work that you do. I've looked at your website, like showing, hey, here are other people just like you that have done this on a whole food plant based lifestyle. Like, it's actually really simple. It's not this whole complex world that people make it out to be. You don't have to worry about combining your beans and your rice every time you eat a meal, or else you won't absorb the protein. Like, it's actually very simple.
Yes. Exactly. It's very complicated when you look out there. It's very overwhelming. There's a lot of wonderful information, but there's a lot of analysis paralysis that comes in when people are trying to make this decision. So we've
Yeah.
really simplified it because we understand what that feels like to be bombarded. And nowadays we have so much of this. I mean, it's wonderful to have all these vegan transition foods, but most of the people that I'm working with, it's sometimes a distraction. And I want to remember we didn't have this distraction. It was really easy to just get the foods we wanted in the produce department, come home and turn them into everything we wanted. So we keep
Yeah.
that part simple here. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
With
I get it.
that.
I've been vegan for over a decade now. I remember like the only treat I had was like banana flavored tofu, the strawberry flavored, like soft tofu. That was the treat. That's all you could have. It took me a few years to realize that Oreos were vegan, and that kind of was a game changer a little bit. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
banana
didn't know
flavored
either.
tofu, that was a dessert.
Exactly. There were not a lot of options. There was no options at restaurants. So we didn't go out often, but we just stopped going because I just I felt
Salads.
better. Yeah, they would, and then my girlfriend would order something and she'd get this big giant salad and I would say, I want that and, no chicken. And they'd bring out this. Like,
Yeah,
I
like a
need
side
five of
salad.
these. Yeah, no. So I just started cooking at home. It was much easier. We bought a ping pong table. We started changing everything over here. We got rid of the kitchen table, put a ping pong table in the house. It just it freed up our life to do things that we loved once we got the health, and the weight under control. So it changed
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
As you guys kind of transitioned to eating whole food plant based and started to lose the weight, was
Mhm.
there obviously I'm assuming there was an increase in energy. So was there therefore an increase in activity? Because I don't know if you guys were active before, just not eating the best. Okay, so not active, not eating the best, and then you guys started being more active.
Yeah, there's a picture out there, Maxim, where I'm on a bike. People think I'm at a desk, but my husband is an engineer, so he made this recumbent bike like a desk so that I could just sit on my laptop. It was no working out. I thought I was doing something, but it wasn't going anywhere. I had zero energy. The energy came probably I already had energy within days, moving around, walking, but physically to get on a bike, that came about 3 months in. I was like, I got to do something with myself. Like I have to start moving.
Yeah.
And that just, you could see the changes so fast with the foods I was eating. It was mind blowing. Actually, I did that. I got jacked on accident. So I always want to tell people, look at what you do. It's amazing. But I did this with 5 pound weights on my bike. And it wasn't until John walked by one day and he goes, have you seen yourself lately? I'd never been to a gym. I'd never been in a gym. I'd never been athletic. To see the body change this much, it
Hmm.
just, again, we have to let more people know that this is happening over here. I couldn't keep it a secret. It was amazing.
Yeah. And it's amazing that you were able to notice that much energy up front as well, because you mentioned you cut out caffeine too. So a lot of people would have a dip after cutting out the caffeine. So the fact that your energy was able to like kind of go up is incredible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a huge difference. And that was a hard one to give up, but it's true. When you give it up, your body changes the way that it
You
runs.
adjust. Yeah.
You adjust. Exactly.
Yeah. Um,
Amazing.
I love to talk about setbacks and obstacles and self-sabotage because I think every transformation journey has a little sprinkle of that thrown in there.
It
Um,
does.
I'd love for you to share the ones that you have, but I have one specifically that I want to ask about the energy because
Hmm.
I've noticed for a lot of people that we've coached that were eating, again, not vegan or junk food vegan, they weren't eating whole foods. Then you
Hmm.
transition them to it and they have so much energy. that they
Yeah.
don't know what to do with it, and then they subconsciously self-sabotage to feel like shit because they know how to feel like shit and feel tired. And you're like,
It's
why do I keep
amazing.
reverting back to this? Because you know how to handle feeling like shit. You don't know how to handle having so much energy that you don't know what to do with it, because it can
Yeah.
be overwhelming for people when they're not used to it.
It was, you're absolutely describing it right. And I think that's where the ping pong table came in. I needed to keep myself busy. My life was changing before my eyes. I went from being, just sitting on the couch doing nothing all day to I'm cleaning out everything. I'm thinking about getting on a bike. And it was one thing to be in the house on the bike. The next thing you know, I had to go buy a bike. I've clocked over 19,000 miles just out on the trails on my bike. So
Amazing.
I kept the energy up, but there was I don't know that there was any self sabotage because it turned into a growth mindset after the next thing. I was like, I'm going to do this. And then I started the business. So I was continually being in the spotlight of, I'm going to keep this up and I'm going to do it right. However, when vegan junk food came in and the kids were able to drive and start bringing stuff home, this did
Yeah.
change things a little bit. So once I started bringing in some of the vegan junk food, I did start bringing some inflammatory markers back up again.
Yeah.
And that's why I brought it back. I realized this isn't going to, I met Esselstyn that year. So there was a lot going on. And I was like, we're getting this cleaned up again. And it's like I didn't want to fall back off after that. I felt like I found my perfect balance of food and doing different things, like I said, ping pong, or, now it's roller skating, or it's just, I can't stop finding new things to do, boxing, speed bagging. It's things that were not options for me at all in life.
Yeah. So it's like you're having fun with your fitness, which is how it's meant to be.
I keep changing it up. Yeah, we got the trampoline now, so we're going to try this for a while. But I think there's a lot of gratitude that comes with the changes that I've made and the way that I embrace some of this stuff. I didn't have this gratitude before. This feels like a second chance at life. So I want to try
Yeah.
everything now. I want to be everywhere. I want to do everything I can. So I see a lot of people doing that self-sabotage, and I want to bring them back. And they get used to being sick so much that it's scary to break out of that new body, that new life. There were a lot of, moments like that. Change isn't always easy, but being sick is harder.
Yeah. And unfortunately, most people have to experience it to know how painful it is to not go back, right? It's one of those things
Exactly.
that it's hard to imagine what it's like to be 150 pounds overweight, um, until
Yeah.
you've been, even I used to be 80 pounds heavier. Like, I know what that feels like. I'm good. I
80
don't need to go
pounds.
back
Wow.
there. Yeah.
I'm
It
not
makes a
going back.
difference. Um, So in terms of, obstacles along the way as you guys were making this transition to this new lifestyle, was there, any setbacks? And again, you guys are doing this as a family, so I can imagine that
Yeah.
it introduces a lot more variable to the mix. So how did y'all navigate that?
Um, John and I stayed on course. Like we were in it to win it. The ethical part came real quick after that. So I did start it
Yeah.
for, the diet part, but I kept getting into the documentaries and I kept, raising the awareness of the family. So I picked one kid was into it ethically, one of them was, thinking environmentally. So I kept bringing these things into play, which kept us pretty steady. The kids, however, they would go out to friends' houses. They were still dealing with some of those social situations. So if there was a setback, which this is real talk right here, I never put pressure on what they were doing outside of the house. I
Hmm.
just controlled what we could do in the house. I'm doing the grocery shopping. This is what we're going to have. And I would say, whatever's going on out there, that's your choice, what you're going to do. So when I did have something like a burger or a pizza, they noticed the difference immediately and decided to say, I'm not going back to that. And then the ethical part really did come into play for us. And of course, the environment. And I just kept bringing that information back into the house about how great this is, for the animals, for the planet, and of course for ourselves. So we stayed on pretty good. I've kept it off. I've
Yeah.
kept the 100 pounds off 13 years later, almost 13 years, 2013,
Yeah.
12,
Because now
12
it
or 13.
became a part of who you are and your new identity, right? Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
there's a part that I've noticed, so far I think we've coached like about 1,000 people. And everyone that has it's if I didn't go through what I went through, none of this would happen. And the same for you, all the people you've helped transform, all of
Yeah.
this wouldn't have happened if you didn't go through what you went through, right? And
Agree.
so
Agree.
I feel like in every part's people's transformation, if they lost like a significant amount of weight, and I'm just going to use the word that they refer to, but everyone has what you said earlier, their skinny clothes and then their fat clothes.
Yep.
And a lot of people, when they start a transformation, they hold on to their fat clothes just in case something happens. So I'm curious for you, when did
Yeah.
you let go of those? Or was it like from the start, no, I'm done, I'm getting rid of them? Or was it like, several months into the process?
It was about 10 months into the process. We cleaned out all our closets. We had collectively lost the 250 pounds within 10 months, all of us. Like
Yeah.
we were strong on keeping it simple, keeping it easy. And we gutted the whole house, had a huge garage sale, and got rid of everything. But I did hold on to a couple things because I had already known I'm not going back. And I knew that I was going to continue to share with people that before and after picture that I had manifested for so long with the 1,000 diets that I had been on. This was
Yeah.
happening, and these pants were here to share the transformation, not that I was going back to them.
Yeah. Like Chuck, basically, with his big pair of pants.
Exactly. I needed something to compare to where I had been, and it's astounding. So I knew, I'm going to say this. I'm telling you, it was probably days in. I knew I'm never going back. I was off my blood pressure
Yeah.
pills within like 12 days. Everything was moving
Wow.
so fast. I started like passing out. I was like, man, I'm really tired. I went from a huge energy, blast to what is making me so lethargic. So as soon as we started cutting back that, I wasn't going back. It wasn't even a
Yeah.
question. It wasn't even a question. I could walk through a store. You could throw a pizza in my face. I was, nothing was worth, nothing was worth as sick as I was to give that up, how I felt
Yeah.
today.
It makes me smile because obviously we know this at this point, but for the people
Yeah.
listening that are in a before position, that where you were before or where I was
Mm-hmm.
before, like something as simple as for 24 hours changing what you put in your mouth, like just
Yeah.
a 24-hour period changing what you put in your mouth, you felt it the next day. It's pretty much
100%.
instant, and it's not like there's no needle, there's no knife cutting into you, there's no scan happening, there's nothing. It's just like we're changing what you're putting in your mouth for 24 hours and you can feel the
Yeah.
difference. There's nothing more powerful than that.
Agree 100%. And it's true. I want people to hear that. It really is that fast when you do it and you go into it with those foods, and it's worth it. And that self-talk when you have that. I didn't have all of this inspiration out there. You know what I mean? So to be
Yeah.
able to hear this and see this, I'm really big on telling people, don't just listen to me, do it. Now let's do it. Let's just start. Don't worry about the perfect recipe and the perfect time, and just do it, because you're going to be so grateful that you did.
Yeah. Um, in preparation for this podcast, I was listening to some of your clips with Mr. a good friend of ours, Chuck Carroll.
I
Um,
loved you. Yeah.
and I had the pleasure of interviewing Chuck on the show, and Shane as well, another person that lost a significant amount of weight. And
Mm-hmm.
I was asking them, like, what are life moments that they've missed out on because
Mm-hmm.
of what their health was before they kind of changed everything?
That's
Do you
so
mind
good.
sharing some of those things if you're okay with it? Because I think it's powerful for people to understand like how actually
Mhm.
limiting it is to feel that way and to feel yourself the wrong way, basically.
It is important to share with people. My life was very limited. I missed many rock concerts that my husband would buy tickets for and I would say no to. I missed many weddings, events, get-togethers. I missed prom dress shopping for my kids. I missed going to amusement parks. I missed vacations. We had never been on a vacation because I felt too uncomfortable to even go on a plane or do anything like that. So I missed out on the majority of my life just thinking that this was as good as life was going to get, is to sit here with a drink and, watch a show and not have any hope. To, I can't stop living my life now to the fullest with everything that I've done. I miss so much. I just want to make up for it. And I want to tell anybody out there listening, it's not worth it. You don't want to miss anymore. You don't want to miss anymore. Yeah.
And you can't stop going for more once you feel that great. It's just like it burns inside of you to want to do more and have more fun and create and give back.
100%. I mean, I didn't think I'd be a CEO, an entrepreneur, global, people. This was not this was not where I thought my life was going. And I'm so grateful that this is where it is going today. But yeah, it's night and day difference. It makes you want more. It makes you want to see more, taste more, be more. It just was like ripping the can off to personal growth. It started with the food and then it just continued to level up along that way. You just become more mindful. You become more, mindful about it all. Aware. Yeah. More aware of what's going on for sure. I get it.
Yeah.
We know. Yeah.
I always like to say that having a healthy and fit body is the foundation to live an incredible life. Because if you're able to master those two areas, it leaks into every other area. It leaks into your relationship with your partner, with your kids, with your career, your job, with your friendships. It leaks into everything. That level of discipline and energy and desire to want more and to improve, you can't do anything about it. It's just happening. Just cool shit keeps happening and you keep pushing for more and having fun with it.
It was like I wasn't afraid of failure all of a sudden. I wasn't afraid of trying new things. The self-confidence, makes a huge difference. It didn't matter what anybody else was thinking anymore. I spent my whole life being sick, worried about what people were thinking about me, it doesn't matter anymore. It's what I think about me and what I'm doing. And it just shifts. It shifts when you put, we put so much work into our car and our lawn and, our house. People aren't taught to put the work into themselves. It's something that I want to bring to people is you can work on yourself and you can be really happy. Even when everything isn't happy around you. It's not going to get rid of the problems, but it's going to help you navigate through them a heck of a lot better.
Absolutely. There's one comment I want to say before we talk about like business and impact and the things that you've done. Yeah. To me, I think that the biggest confidence builder you can have is not new clothes, a nice watch, or a nice purse, or a nice car, or any of those things that you think you can buy to have confidence. Yeah. It's when you've done the thing that you said that you were going to do. So the fact that you've lost the weight and you said you were going to do it, you're like, now I'm the shit. I can do anything that I want. It's like the ultimate proof that you have it in you to do the thing you say you're going to do. That's the ultimate confidence.
You know exactly what I'm talking. You see it in me. I went from, I have no drive, I don't want to be anybody, to, oh my gosh, this is not going to stop. I'm going to the top. It is absolutely it's like getting behind the wheel of a hot rod. Where do you want to go? I've got the keys. Yeah. I've got the pedal to the metal and I can go anywhere I want. That is not the way it felt before. It was like I was stuck. So this is absolutely, in conquering something like that, you can do anything.
Yeah, because you
put your mind to.
It teaches you, and I'm going to blend business and fitness here, but it teaches you the game. The game is try something, learn, adapt. Adapt is the biggest word in terms of continue to succeed. It's just try something, doesn't work great, adapt, try again, and going through that iteration multiple times. And understanding that you can't fail if you don't quit. Then it's just about continuing to go and continue to be adaptable, and eventually you get there.
You do.
It took you decades to get to the point where you needed to change, and it took you only 10 months to get there compared to the decades that you have tried. Like, who cares if it took you 10 months? You got there. That's all that matters.
Exactly. I agree with that 100%. It's powerful. It's
Yeah.
powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Teaches you the
Thanks.
game of accomplishing things. It's those core fundamentals of success that
You
happens when
know,
you transform.
exactly. And it wasn't about mistakes anymore. It was about lessons. Everything
Mhm.
started shifting because, oh, if I could get through this. And, I often say to people, what is one of the most challenging times that you've been through? Don't forget you got through that. You'll get through this. Just keep on going. So yeah, it can be done, but you have to just realize that you have to talk to yourself like you would to somebody you love. You got this. You can do this. But we forget to do that. We forget to talk ourselves through that stuff.
Yeah. Um, Love to ask you a question from something that most people don't talk about when it comes to losing a bunch of weight and getting
Hmm.
healthier and feeling better. You make more money. Your life gets better. When you feel better, you go for the things that you want. You actually
Yeah,
make money doing the impact that makes you feel fulfilled. And I know a
yeah.
lot of people are scared to talk about that, but it's part of life, it's part of the game. But
Hmm.
when you get fitter, you just have more confidence. You go for the job opportunity, you start the business, you go try the things. Like, how have you noticed
True.
your life shift since you lost the weight? Because you mentioned, your husband couldn't work at a surgery, you couldn't work because you're trying to get on disability. Like, how did that shift for you in terms of like once you've transformed your body?
Well, my confidence changed completely, a night and day turnaround. I went from being afraid of everything to saying yes to everything, and it just continued to go in that direction of you're right. When you have self-confidence, it changes everything. It's changed our relationship. It's changed the dynamic. It's changed my mindset, my capabilities, my business, like my mindset. It just seems like I'm here. I can do whatever I want when I want, and I'm going to keep on achieving these things because it is like a game. You're right. It isn't about failure. It's about just learning, like, what do we need to do to navigate this? It's very true, and not a lot of people do talk about it. And I'm just going, and I'm not looking back is how it feels. I'm just going. It's just happening
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
just like again, I'm not one to play video games, but I think the analogy applies well
I,
here.
I
It's like
gamify
playing
stuff.
Yeah, it's like playing a video game. You try one level and then you die in the game and you restart it. And then when you pass it, the next time you die, you don't start from the beginning, you start from the previous level, basically. You just restart the level that you missed. And then it's just a game.
Yeah.
You just play level. And sometimes you have to fail 20 times at it before you're like, oh, there's a guy that's going to pop from this corner. I shouldn't go there. And then you master it over time. Yeah.
Exactly. I love to talk about gamifying things because it's a really great tool to use when you're doing stuff. And that's exactly how I work. What level can I get to next? It is about learning from those mistakes. It's the only way we're going to grow. you know,
Yeah.
by dealing with the stuff and now we're getting into the business talk. The obstacles were not hard here because I was in my house. I stayed right here. It was easy to deceive my plants, not worry about stuff. But when you do get into more of a business aspect, then there are levels and challenges and
Oh,
things that
yeah.
you start learning from. Yeah. But that is what gave me the foundation of self-confidence to just keep going.
Yeah.
So growing the background that I have and the nutrition education and I have and the conferences, this is completely different from the person who I was 13 years ago. I would have said, no, meditate, no, exercise, please. I can't. My back, my knees, my body. Now I
Yeah.
say yes to everything. If it doesn't evolve me, it doesn't involve me, is what I say. So I kind of go that method.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the culmination of all these, what people would call failure and what we're calling learning opportunities that led you to build plantspiration.org.
Hmm.
So, what was the point where you realized of like, hey, my story and what I know can actually help other people?
Well, it was already happening when I had done this. It had immediately inspired a bunch of people. People were watching.
Were
First,
you
they were watching.
documenting online or were you just in person in your community?
It was in person in my community, or like the people I knew on Facebook, basically. So I was
Okay.
I was like a Chris Farley comedy type of person, so everybody saw me as the jolly, funny, drunk girl. So my post became more about like, wow, now I'm on my bike. Wow, I've still kept my weight off. So once I think people realized it wasn't coming back on, they started asking questions. And as soon as I started, hey, try this, try this, try this, basically, it didn't take but maybe a year into it that I had helped somebody reverse their type 2 diabetes. And that again was another level of I'm going to be able to teach more people how to do this. So that just was enough for me to say, I think I should start a business. And I mean, I was dreaming at the time, Maxim. I had no idea what I was doing. I have no education in business, but I believed in myself. My self-confidence was at a different level. I believed very much into
Yeah.
manifestation, but I didn't quite know how to master it. And I just said, actually, I was in the middle of my T. Colin Campbell course in 2017 when I said, I think I'm going to start a business. And I drew Plantspiration around a globe I doodled on a piece of paper. And it was in that week that I reversed the first type 2 diabetes, or helped somebody reverse their diabetes. And it just took off from there. I said to my son, can you make me a website? Now I've got this Richter set of a website, that we're still trying to fix up. But everything else just started falling into place. The obstacles, of course, continued to happen, trying to learn how to manage this. I start something and I said, I want to start a nonprofit, and I didn't even know what I was talking about, but I did it, so I had to
Yeah.
keep learning how to maneuver, how to manage stuff along the way. And I kept getting better at it through all the failures. I lost my 501c3 through COVID. So there are big, big things that would normally take people out. Like, I'm done, the paperwork is never ending or this, but I was
Mhm.
actually fueled by, well, if I can lose 100 pounds and start a business and change my whole family. So it was a constant, like, we can do this and we'll get through this. So it just continued to grow, and I believed in it. And I had self-confidence, of course, with the more and more people that were learning. But I think, as what you're doing and the life you're living and people watching that's truly the biggest inspiration for people to see. And of course that we keep doing it, that we're not going to fall back on it. It's not a fad diet. It just keeps getting easier, is how I feel. Like you said, we're going through the levels.
Yeah. And I think the beautiful part of it all is, like you mentioned during COVID, losing the 501c and all that.
Yeah.
Like, I love the game. So if I was to lose it all, and if you were
Yeah.
to lose it all, it changes nothing, because you know
That
how
was
to
just
redo it.
feeling.
You know what I mean? You know how to rebuild this. You lost maybe a few months worth of work to have built all the stuff, but like, you know
Yeah,
how to rebuild it so much faster than you did the first
it's
time.
true.
And it's the same thing
Yes.
with fitness and whole food plant-based eating. Once you learn it properly, I'll
Yeah.
be honest, like, I have my moments where I've put on like 20, 30 pounds because like business was stressful. I was
Well,
super busy. I was traveling.
Well, I
Yeah.
was going
And
to say
so,
maybe 5'10". I would be. I didn't do that, but realistically, of course, wintertime. I'm not on my bike as much, but it flexes. And you're right. I know right where you're going with this. I fall right back into the proper habits and the right things to do. It's ingrained now. I've gotten rid of the unhealthy habits and
yeah.
and brought in the good ones. But
Yeah.
you were
And
saying you
once
gained that
you,
weight. Wow.
yeah, it just, we have like, we're like 11 employees in one of the businesses. And it's like, sometimes it's a lot and it's hectic and whatever,
Yeah.
life happens. And so you put on a bit of weight because you train less and you're not watching nutrition as much.
Exactly.
But you know how to get back to it. And it's natural
Yeah.
at that point. And so the point I was trying to prove with that is, business will get busy, a family member will get sick, there's going to be emergencies with your parents who are
Mhm.
getting older, whatever it may be, that's going to lead you to
Exactly.
potentially fall off track. There's nothing wrong with that. Life
Right.
happens. But when it's time to
Yes.
get back on the track, you know how to do it. It's not that big of a deal. You've already done it at that point. And it wasn't through starving yourself, basically.
You really bring up a wonderful point. People ask me all the time, I don't weigh myself. I know I flex a little bit, like you said, during the winter or when things happen. but it never stresses me out. It's not like before, like, oh, I've got to lose weight or I've got this event I've got to do. It just feels like I explain, it's like you shift into the express lane for a minute and you're going to just get there a little bit quicker. But there are times where you are kind of coasting, in that lane. You're dealing with the obstacles or the challenges of life, or the environment or certain situations. But you're right. We can getting fit, or more so than other times during the year. It doesn't bother me if I lose a little muscle. I know it's going to come right back on the minute I get back down there and start lifting again. So it's amazing to see how much control we have over our health, really.
Yeah. And it depends on the chapter of life as well. Like if you're a new parent, hey, maybe priorities are we want to stay healthy and in shape, but you're not going to be super jacked and shredded. It might not be the priority at that time, right? I took all of
Very true.
last year off from
Yeah.
training like an athlete. I was exercising like a normal person, which to me is not a lot. I was kind of like a normal person. And
What is
because my nervous
normal? What
system
is,
was just fried from being a caregiver for so long, and I just like
yeah,
my body was tired from years of stress. And so I just took last year off. And this year I'm on
nice.
fire and I'm ready to get back into it. So self love, being understanding of yourself and kind of where you're at is important.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what people need to hear. It isn't perfect all the time, but I don't stress about it because I know it's easy to get back to when we do give ourselves the understanding of everything isn't going to go perfect. I think that's great for people to hear that we have normal stuff happen. It's just that we're learning to navigate through it in a much healthier way, mentally, physically, all around. So yeah, I can
Yeah.
understand that very much.
Yeah. And a little bit body fat is way better. Having a six pack is not fun to maintain. So a little bit body fat, you enjoy some good food, you have a good time, you're not stressed. Big difference in
Exactly.
quality of life.
Exactly. When I'm out on the bike, like as soon as it's cycling season and I can get out there, it's almost like it just happens. You know what I mean? I'm never really focusing on anything other than I'm just having fun. I'm having a good time, and everything always comes back into place. Wintertime, it's almost like getting off the express lane. I'm still eating like
Yeah.
I'm doing, 100 miles a week, but you got to make adjustments with your life. But it always
Yeah.
seems to level out and to keep it off. Like you've kept it off. Has it been hard for you to keep it off?
No, no. I
No.
fluctuate within like typically I'll fluctuate within 10 pounds. The 30
Yeah.
pounds was very much like I'm gonna relax because I've been at
Yeah.
it for so long. It was just
Yeah.
to be fair, it was fun, to be honest with you. It was nice to have a little bit
Nice.
more body fat, have more energy, feel stronger. So it was actually enjoyable versus oh, I hate how I look and I feel disgusting. Yeah. It's a different
Exactly. That
I
makes
was gonna say it's a
sense
very different
completely.
sensation. Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense though. It makes sense. And I'm learning more and more about, how that all works for people. Everybody's level of energy is different. What they're eating is different. But once they get into their routine of what they're doing, it just keeps getting easier for people. You know what I mean? Once they get into it and they see we can keep this up and we can do this, it doesn't become as cumbersome as for a regimen or that they have to go out of their way for certain foods. It just becomes part of your life. Like we're not setting these high expectations. We're just living. We're just doing what feels right and
Yeah.
what feels good. So that's a good way to put
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I was going through your website, you guys have some coaching as well and some membership stuff, which is awesome. Um, so you've helped a lot of people kind of transition to eating whole food, plant-based and serve them because I know you're Food for Life certified as well.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I tell people it's like starting a new job. You start off, you have no idea where anything is. You don't know where the paperwork is for that. You don't know what the procedure is for that. And eventually you get used to it. So you're not used to eating whole food plant based and cooking whole food plant based. At first, your kitchen's going to be a mess. You're going to have leftovers in your fridge from stuff that you overbought because you thought you're going to use it. But after like a few weeks to like a month, you're like, oh, this, I got to prep some, some sweet potatoes, some rice, got to prep some veggies, some tofu, some tempeh, put the meal together, done. But
Yeah,
there's a learning curve to transitioning.
for sure. I often say to people, it would be really easy to come in here and say, I need you to learn this new language, and we'll work with that. But this is also undoing the language that we already have.
Yeah.
and then learning one on top of it. And that is no simple task. So when I break it down and I explain to them, this is going to be some obstacles, but stay focused on your why, that you can do it. It doesn't just work for me or Maxim. It works when you believe in yourself that you can do it.
Yeah. And it's the emotion attached to it as well that makes it hard to unlearn the previous model.
Very much. And society, the emotion part is definitely, but society, I think, I find the most of my clients they get bombarded by the information of other people, and it makes them second guess and question what we're doing, what they're doing and what they know to be true.
Yeah. Yeah. It
It's,
makes me laugh. Yeah, it makes
yeah,
me laugh because we've coached like 1,000 people, been in this for so long, and people come to me like, "Have you heard of this new method?" I'm like, "Hey, I've been doing this for a long
long
time.
time.
That's
Yeah,
crap. Like, if it was good, I would have known about it at this point." It's just another
exactly.
TikTok strategy that they saw.
I get it all the time. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? I'm like, it's not this. And this is the easiest, most sustainable. The evidence has been here forever. So every time I have a big group, I always say, how many of you guys know that eating whole food plant-based can prevent and reverse disease and lose weight? And everybody raises their hand. Everybody knows. That's why they're here. They already know the information. I say, I didn't write the research. I just teach it. So as soon as everybody raises their hand, they'll leave, and then somebody will question them, and then they forget their confidence of, I already know the information and what we're capable of doing. So it can be really hard for people. They just need to keep being surrounded in the environment of people doing it with them.
Yeah, and to be fair, I think a lot of people struggle with the fact that it's so simple that it can't be that simple and effective.
Can you say that louder? Because it is very true. It is very true. They overcomplicate it. They read too many. Now, I'm all for reading books. Okay, I'm all for reading books and learning, but we
Yeah,
really
I'm for
just need to.
implementation. Like people read too much, they listen to too many videos. Like just do something with the information, and you'll actually learn more from doing it than reading more books.
I love this method that you speak of. More people need to hear it. It's that taking action far supersedes any of the reading. I mean, you've got the information, is what I want to tell them. You've got it. Now just do it. And that's the hard part. Just make the grocery
Mhm.
list. Okay. Make the grocery list. Make a plan when you go to the grocery store that you're not bringing home those things that aren't going to help you. And once you go through a couple days of that, I feel like they fall into place. They have self confidence that they've made it.
Yeah.
So I say give it a couple days. Don't let mistakes hold you back. Learn from them. What could you do differently? Keep it easy. It
What?
is easy. It is simple and easy. When we're not looking at all the podcasts and looking at all the books and watching all the stuff, because as you know, I'm sure some of the best clients get so distracted with all the information and what this one said and what this one said and what this one said. And what I just want to say is what you just said. Keep it easy, I say. Rice and beans until you get your training wheels off. You can get to the 30 different plants a day. You can get all your omegas. You can get to all those things. But first, just keep it easy and start getting comfortable with it.
Yeah. I make it simple. I say trust the process. If it doesn't work, I give you your money back. Like that's how much I believe in what we're doing. It's so
Same.
simple that it works that people don't believe it worked. But if you, most people have listened to our Fit Vegan Success stories, like
Yeah,
everyone will say just trust the process. Like we've trained everyone to just trust the process. Stop
exactly.
trying to wonder and fast for a cycle of 18 to 8, 3 days a week, and then the other 2 days do a carb cycling with like a keto blend of it's too much. Eat whole foods.
Yeah. Eat whole foods. Let me ask you this. Do you see the difference of people eating whole foods versus keto? Can you see the transformations and the difference in
We've
them?
Yeah, we're pretty established in like whole food plant-based fitness space as a brand right now. So we don't attract as much. But when I
Sure.
first started the company about 5 years ago, we would get some keto people that were carb phobic. They're like, well, I'm going to eat
Yeah.
350, 400 grams of carbs. I'm like, yeah, and you're going to lose weight. It's going to be phenomenal. But
Yeah.
they transitioned and they lost weight. They felt great. They're like, I have more energy. I'm like, no way. You're eating glycogen is converted to energy. You feel better, obviously.
It makes sense to me now, but in the beginning, I couldn't wrap my head around it. Everybody was
Yeah,
freaking
carbs
out
make
that
you
I was
fat.
eating. Yeah, everybody says that still to this day. It's the number one thing. I eat a tremendous amount of pasta. I love potatoes, and it's the number one thing people say to me is like, how could you eat so much potatoes and carbs? I'm like, because they're low in fat. It's not like that. Our body needs this stuff. But you're right. I think a lot of people are carb phobic to this day. Even
Yeah.
people trying to get healthy or go whole food plant based, they still are nervous about that stuff. But that's just ingrained, in a lot of that unhealthy relationship so many of us unintentionally have with food. Like, it's nobody's fault, I want to say. You go to the doctor, you have a baby, they tell you to give the baby milk. Like, we're doing everything that we were told to do. So this comes along, and it's hard to, you know, wrap your head around it. But thanks to seeing these transformations and seeing that it works for so many people, it just is getting easier and easier to see that it's not just us. It can be done, and it needs to just be very easy.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I think Atkins and keto had a pretty big marketing budget to educate the masses, and we have a lot of undoing to do to educate people. Um,
Yeah,
so now
very
I
much.
want to ask a question about Plantspiration. What
Sure.
is the mission of it, and how do you guys serve people through that company?
Our mission is to educate, motivate, and inspire people to adopt a whole food plant based diet for obvious health, animals, planet. Let's get it done right. And what we have is I do individual nutrition education and cooking classes every Wednesday night. So we just make that like, let's have fun and really learn how to get this down. I've taught over 370 classes. I think I just do it every week, and all of them no oil, low fat, of course, high fiber, high carb, all the good stuff. And the classes come free with the membership. So we also have a membership where I do one-on-one lifestyle medicine coaching, group coaching live almost every day. I do Tuesday grocery hauls every week. So people have been seeing me for almost 2 years now, bringing home the same produce foods, but I'm still making all these amazing things. So the group, we have an incredible Saturday support group that's been going on for 5 years. It's all global. It's all virtual, and everything is live that we do. And and that's it, I think. Yeah, the coaching, the group coaching, the individual coaching, the cooking classes, and just the community is huge, of course, a huge part of seeing other people do it, getting everybody in on this together, as we know evidence of social support. It's a big part of it. So the community is a big part.
Yeah, it is very important. And also, just for the people listening that would be interested in that, I will put the link down below so they can check out the website and the membership and all that. Um, what is the common thing that you see people struggle when they first start and coming into your program?
Not eating enough.
Yeah.
That's why I started Eat Your Plants Off. People do not eat enough. They want to lose weight. They're not eating enough. They still think that losing weight means we have to cut back. And I'm getting because I've lost so much weight, I'm attracting a lot of people for weight loss. So I
Yeah.
found that this is the number one obstacle years and years and years when people are stuck and they're coming in saying, I've had 1,200 calories.
Yeah.
Fat is smart. Fat is smart. It's keeping you safe. It knows that we've been messing around. We've been starving it. So it is the biggest obstacle to get people to eat more food and trust the process that we need to nourish, we need to heal, and it isn't going to be from starving ourselves at this point.
Yeah. Is definitely a big one. And, I
Big.
think, years of yo-yo dieting for most people, they try to lose some weight and then they fall off of it. And then they go back
Yeah.
to, oh, I need to starve myself again. And it
Yeah.
shrinks the stomach. And so the stomach doesn't have the ability to handle that much food. So that's why they're like, oh, I'm eating 1,000 calories, but they don't know they're eating 1,000. They're like, I just feel full. So I just don't keep eating. But their stomach shrunk throughout the years of yo-yo
Yeah.
dieting. And then
Yeah.
metabolism slows down, muscle mass goes down, lean muscle mass goes down, fat stays on because it's a survival mechanism, and they're just stuck.
You're absolutely right. And then there's that whole concept of they start off, they see the progress, they've lost some weight, and then they get on the scale and it doesn't move. So what's the number one thing they do? They cut back again. They get
Yeah,
back into
comfort
that
food.
cycle of, yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because it's ingrained in everybody with the diet culture that to lose weight, we need to cut back. And that's why I started Eat Your Plants Off. It is a concept that more people need to learn. This isn't dieting. This is about nourishing. This is about healing and building a healthy relationship with food and inspiring other people to do the same. We need more of this. We need more of this. Like you said, there's no money. It takes a lot of money to do commercials, and Jen and I are volunteering our time. So we're just
Yeah.
putting it all back into, we have grants, for the membership. We have grants for free classes. Veterans are free. We want to really just keep this as easy as it can be for people to get to, and to make it easy on their journey, learning the new behaviors. It's a lot of behavior change with the coaching that I'm doing. So it's a lot of the behaviors, because honestly, Maxim, almost everybody knows how to eat whole food, plant-based, that come
Yeah.
to my group. They've been to all the groups, they've been to all the programs. Everybody is a plant-based pro, but they just can't seem to turn out the noise, stop the analysis paralysis, cut out the self-sabotage, and trust the process, as you know.
Yeah. It is 100% a behavioral issue for anyone that struggles to lose weight. Because if it didn't, they wouldn't need a coach. Because it would be as simple as just doing the action, regardless of what your emotions are or your cravings are or how you feel. It'd be a pretty straightforward transformation on their own. But I always
Absolutely.
tell people, like, you can give them the best meal plan in the world, the best workout plan in the world. It's not going to change anything if they don't do it. And then the doing is a behavioral issue. It's a mindset issue. There's something happening between your two ears that's limiting you or blocking you from doing the thing.
Accurate and 100% what's going on. So most of the people listening are probably already plant-based pros, like you said. They've been listening for a while. It's that action phase and changing that mindset of what's going on. And I always say it's not always easy, because you get off the podcast, you get all into, you're listening to this podcast, you're ready to do this, and then you go into the kitchen and people are cooking up some chicken or something. So it immediately stops right there. So that
Yeah.
right there, that behavior change is one thing, but we're also getting people to do it against the grain of the rest of those behaviors. So that is a challenge, but with the right support, they
Yeah.
stay strong. They
That's why
stay
coaching
strong.
and community is important because, like you've mentioned, they may leave this world of listening to this podcast and then go into another world of their family eating meat or the friends that they hang out with, whether they drink or eat junk food or party, whatever it may be. So it's good to have a place where you can be surrounded by like-minded individual because
Very important.
I'm just going to make an assumption that the people that are in your program are typically the black sheep in their community and they don't know other vegans. And now they're in this place connecting with other black sheeps, basically. They're like, oh, you're the only vegan in your town too. Me too.
Exactly. People get really excited, and it is the first thing they say is, they're like, I'm the only one in my town, or there's no, vegans around here, and that's great. I always say, well, then it's time we bring more of them in. So get this down and let's keep turning it around, because we have an epidemic out here of massive health issues. And the only way
Yeah.
we're going to make that change is by these folks out here listening, taking the action and saying, if Maxim and Stefanie can do it, I can do it too, because it's worth it. It's worth it to get your life back. It's worth it to live your fullest. I mean, it's not going to take care of everything, but it's certainly going to make the issues or the
90% of
problems.
it.
It's going to make a lot of it go. I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And it didn't just change my health and my mindset. This going vegan was, it eliminated a lot of things. It not just toxic foods, but it did change the relationships that go on, because you have so much self-worth after taking care of yourself and making these changes. It changes all the way around you. So I would say, I love everybody, but it just shifted a little bit of the environment that was around.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask. It's one point we didn't really touch on, but you and your husband did that together. Like, how did that improve you guys' relationship to go through that journey of improving your health together? Because that's massive.
It was massive. I mean, I thought things were good, but I'm just going to be really honest. When you have self confidence with yourself, it changes the dynamic of everything. in your life, everything in your life, your relationship with your spouse, your relationship with your family. It changed dramatically just losing the weight. Like you would say things like, this is kind of weird. This is not like, you don't look the same anymore. And I never looked like this. So I'd never been this weight. I'd never been this size, maybe when I was in third grade, but so not only did that dynamic happen, just changing my whole life. I'm, running a business. I'm doing different things now. So there's been a lot of growth and a lot of change. And we always come back to thank God for this food making us feel so great, because it's all been wonderful. We're growing and we're learning every day from all these challenges and all these new things that life brings us. Now that I feel like the blinders are ripped off and I can actually see what's going on out there, now I can swim through it.
Yeah. It feels like it would be a rediscovery process of each other for you and your husband,
Yeah.
since you have never met each other in that state, basically. So it must have been a pretty cool thing to kind of redate from the
It
beginning,
still
basically.
is. It still is. Like we're still learning how to get to know each other more and more as we navigate business, working together, starting new projects. It's
Oh, yeah, that's
I,
different. Working together is different. I do it with my wife
it
too.
really, yeah, you guys are awesome. It is different and it is challenging, and it's also invigorating to overcome all those obstacles the same way we did with the weight loss. It's like, look what we can do. We'll continue to get through this and we'll continue to learn so that we can bring more awareness and get, just keep getting the word out there.
Yeah. What is a project you guys are working on that you're excited to bring to the world? Because knowing the things you're working on now, I'm sure you're cooking something behind the scenes.
We're trying to get this documentary out. That's going to be a big thing. We're excited about the plant interventionist, and right now we're just doing because I know it's just going to keep growing and going.
Yeah.
There's always going to be projects. Right now we just started the podcast, so we're really excited about that. Actually, we love that we're giving people an opportunity to see who we are and what we're doing on a more
Yeah.
intimate level. A lot of people are loving that. We're just like everybody else. You know what I mean? We're not doctors, we're not nutritionists, we're not dietitians. We're just like everybody else, is what we keep hearing from people. Like, wow, you guys are just doing this. Well, yeah, we have so much passion for what we're doing. It's inspiring for other people to see that it can be done. You could be working and you could still be living this way, and it'll get better for sure.
Yeah. And I did listen to some of the episodes before in preparation for this episode. And yeah, you guys real casual. I loved it. It was great. It was very raw, vulnerable, natural. It was great. You have a nice setup too. So I also link that down below for the people as well. Check out the podcast. Obviously, if you listen to this one, they like podcasts, so they can go check out
Of
yours.
course. The podcast for us is, by the way, it's, all the coaching that I do, all the things that I talk about growth mindset and facing your fears and starting things that are scary, just like we're talking about the whole food plant-based, same concept.
Hmm.
I pretty much said to everybody, everybody says that we should do a podcast. I said, fine, I'll stop making excuses. I'll stop the analysis paralysis. And I went into this with the group, the Plantspiration community, and I said, watch us go to the top, because it's going to take some time. You don't go into it and go, I'm going to lose 100 pounds tomorrow. So we're kind of watching the coaching technique go through as we grow and learn through mistakes and obstacles on how to make something successful. Even when you start something, just because you don't know how to do it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you've got to learn how to do it better.
Yeah, and you're going to learn through doing it. You guys have a nice setup, way better than me when I first started, over 4 years ago. So you
Well, I
guys are
can
way
thank my
ahead of the
daughter.
game.
Well, my daughter's my executive assistant, and when I first came to her and I said we're going to do it like this, she was like, "You're going to be making this look a little bit better. Don't embarrass us." So I had a little help with putting that together, and it worked out really nice, and we're really having a good time doing it. So we like it. Thank you.
Well, beautiful. Well, yeah, I will link that down below as well for the people listening.
Thank
Um,
you.
I'd love to ask you one last question.
Sure.
Any words of wisdom you would like to pass off to the people listening that are in the position that you were in when you got started on this whole journey? Now being able to look back.
What advice would I have for anybody starting?
That was in your
Don't look
position
back.
before you lost all the weight.
I would say don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for tomorrow. Start now. Don't worry about the mistakes. Just start eating your plants off. Keep it simple and find a community where people can support you on it, because that's so important. Um, don't second guess yourself. If you're here and you're listening, you know how powerful plants are. The hardest part is just bringing them home. Get them home. Start eating them. Keep it easy. Find the people who can support you on it. But it's worth it. It's worth it. More people need to know that you can prevent and reverse disease. You can lose weight. You can feel great. And we don't have to be dieting. We don't have to be cutting, restricting. And we don't have to be giving up. Stop thinking about what you're giving up and start thinking about what you're going to gain. That would be my advice.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And
Thank
I
you.
just want to just add to that for the people listening. And I say this respectfully to you and I, but we're not special. Like
Right.
everything that we've done, the personal
Yeah.
transformations that we've accomplished, the people that we're
Yeah.
just regular people. Like you should
Regular
see
people.
me when I met Chuck for the first time, or James Wilk. I was like super giddy. Or when I met Rich Roll, I was like, oh shit, that's Rich Roll. Like we're all normal people going through this world, doing our best. So
True.
you're gonna love the podcast. I've been doing it for over 4 years, almost 400 episodes deep now. It's so fun being able to interview incredible people like you that have amazing stories that are changing lives. You're going to have fun with it. So I'm excited for what you're going to create on there. And, for everyone listening, again, the links will be down below for plantspiration.org, the membership, and the podcast that they just launched. So be sure to go and check that out. Stefanie, massive thank you for jumping on the podcast. And
Thank you.
yeah, everyone, we'll see you in the next episode.
Maxim, it was an honor to be with you here today, taking the time as my sun goes down. Thank you so very much for this opportunity and inspiring more people to be the inspiration the world needs to see. Thank you.
Thank you for the kind words.